Are there any fees that have been put in place by the current government that you would attempt to reduce or remove, and how would you cover any revenue shortfalls from removing or reducing said fees?
Well, I'm not going to just be a populist on this because I think the popular sentiment out there is the fees are ridiculous. But I can honestly say I thought that the mayor was crazy to do the fees when he instituted them, but he kept on saying, well, it makes it more equitable. Having been a guy that used to do income tax returns, ad valorem taxes are tax deductible for people that can itemize their deductions. Fees are not. Right there, I used to tell the mayor, you know, Mayor, you're going to make it so that we don't even get the federal subsidy that you do the other way with these fees. And but he still did it. I thought it was insane because of the billing as well. Here people, you know, get another bill, you know, and that costs the city money to bill when we already had a system. So I don't like the fees. And I don't like the fact that I think that we have some of these mandates that are put down by Tallahassee and Washington, D.C. that may drive things like the stormwater fee, and I need to learn more about that. That's why I say I won't just go ahead and do away with fees, because I don't know, as I understand it, some of the stuff like the stormwater may have some mandates to it, but generally I think ad valorem taxes and sales taxes ought to be plenty of revenue. And to echo what a lot of candidates say, and I'm not being a populist when I say this because I've always believed that the city government has a spending problem, not an income problem. And so we don't, you know, we voted another half-cent sales tax for Better Jacksonville, and boom, that money's gone, and now they want more. Excuse me, no,
We're at 14 minutes. Talk
Okay.
fast, right?
Yes. Your general view on granting of sole source contracts for goods serves the city, open bids or RFPs, and at what threshold level do you allow and disallow that process?
I'm not going to be able to get real specific there. I'm going to have to do more homework. As a spectator on the waste management fiasco, I would have voted for the initial. That was one thing I thought the mayor had right, because effectively that was bid out when the landfill was originally done. And I felt like there was some people on city council that were feathering their own bed on that fiasco that has cost us taxpayers a lot of money. In my Navy experience, Lockheed built 4 generations of missile systems as a sole source, and I thought did a pretty darn good job. So I've got some experience with a good sole source and multi-generational. It just depends on the contract and the contractor. What we have to be careful of is we get the right procurement people that really do the procurement job right, that get it right, that understand how to do an effective RFP, that understand how to hold the contractor's feet to the fire and get value for us taxpayers. That's what we really need.
Conrad, talk fast.
What will you do to encourage transparency and public access to government and public participation in the legislative process?
Well, you know, the sunshine laws are pretty darn good just as they are, and with our press out there, there's quite a bit of transparency, and I'd be ethical and follow the law. I may disagree with laws at times, but I definitely follow them. I've got a Facebook page. I haven't employed anybody to do a website for myself, but I continue to use my Facebook presence, and while not everybody has Facebook, and I continue to do what I have historically done anyway, get around town and go and see people in groups. At large, we cover the whole city versus having a district to do town meetings as well, but I'd possibly go and piggyback on some town meetings, kind of take a look at them and see what's out there. I think, you know, if Mr. Rubio was doing a town hall meeting or one of the other districts, it would be proper for a large member to come out there and see what people are thinking.
Now, you've touched on this before, but what distinguishes you from both of your opponents and would specifically make you and not either of them the right choice for the voters in your race?
Well, I'm not an attorney.
I challenge anyone to say I'm that kind of attorney.
By virtue of you sitting there, and I spoke that as a joke. My wife was a paralegal for years, and I used to get kicked out of Christmas parties all the time. So, so you have to, I guess, understand a little bit about Steve with that. But I respect. I mean, attorneys go through an awful lot of education to get where they're at, and God bless you for that. But I am not in it for myself. I believe at least one of my opponents is in it to be a career politician and in it to feather his own bed. I've never looked to the city for a job, a contract, or anything. I came to Duval County, retired from the military, which I do draw a pension from that, but have just gone out there and created a business and paid taxes and worked. And I want to see it so that the government pays more attention to us. My other opponent, she airdropped out of nowhere on the last day of qualification, and I haven't learned much about her yet, except I would just say I have never declared bankruptcy, never had to, and I dissolved a business that had a revenue, had over 50 locations and almost $7 million of revenue, and sold it back to corporate in an orderly fashion so that I did everybody right and had the money to pay everybody off and move on. So there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things, and I try to do that. I know TV4 apparently caught me for being dumb one day as part of that dissolving that old business, sold a piece of property, and I thought it was just old business records. I didn't bother to look in the boxes, and apparently with some employment records in there. My first indication of problem, to use an old submarine term, was when the TV4 reporter came running in the office with a microphone, and they flipped on the camera lights, and he was waving this thing in front of me that was a driver's license for one of my past employees, and I had thrown boxes away, and obviously I had thrown that stuff away, but I did not know what was in there. Now, to use my lawyer sense of humor, as I told some people, my friends after that, I said, my God, if I'd have been trying to get away with stuff, I wouldn't have just been tossing the boxes in there, which is what I did. And the guy down the way in the same building apparently went out to the dumpster and saw this box that the lid had fallen open and realized it was personal information. So he called TV4 first, then he called the sheriff's department, then he called Shred It, and Shred It was the right answer, and I immediately paid and got everything shredded that day and fixed the problem. So, but I got 2 nights worth of coverage on TV4. Their 5:30 news on that. So,
well, I've heard there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Well, you know, I was stupid that day because, you know, but boy, oh boy, I think you can see the shock in my face because I had no clue that I had thrown that. I thought it was just old business records, you know. It was, but I didn't realize that it was that.
As far as we're concerned, you're absolved. Go ahead.
Oh, assuming that concerned taxpayers of Duval County were to officially endorse you, what actions, if any, would you take to inform the electorate of that fact?
Well, to my knowledge, I've got no endorsements, although the realtors interviewed me this morning. I would be proud to get an endorsement, especially from this organization that I was once a member of back in the days when they were fighting for the 3% cap, when Linda Sparks was involved back in the day. And I've always been a concerned taxpayer in Duval County, haven't kept my dues up or membership up, but in other ways, always been out there. So I am so proud to appear before you folks. But just like the chamber that didn't endorse me, and I'm still going to chamber events, you know, I still respect you folks if you didn't. I mean, you know, everybody makes the best choices for him and herself, and I just say God bless you for the efforts that I know that you folks are putting in to do things. And this is not a nonprofit that I would look at and say, well, it's only there to pay people's salaries, because you folks are not,
the case.
are not in that category.
Membership is only $10 a year,
No,
and it
exactly.
doesn't pay a salary.
No, and that's why I say God bless you for that effort, because I know it's low that you're doing it for. So.